Hello. So, welcome to week 3 of going through Nehemiah, where this week we are going to end Nehemiah chapter 2. We're going to look at Nehemiah chapter 2, verses 11 to 20. Now, as again, like I've said last week, I'm not going to be reading these Bible verses out to you today. So, if you haven't read it yet, why don't you hit pause, have a read, and then come back and listen to the rest of this. But hopefully, this will just encourage you as it's encouraged me and give you some things to think about as we're reading Nehemiah together. So we pick it up here in Nehemiah chapter 2, verse 11, and Nehemiah is in Jerusalem. God has made a way. He didn't think he'd even make a way, but not only has God made a way, but God has given him the resources and blessing to get to Jerusalem and start the work that God has broken his heart for, to fix and rebuild the broken walls and the broken gates. But bizarrely, I say bizarrely, maybe it's not, but strangely enough, Nehemiah doesn't start work. He gets to Jerusalem and he doesn't just jump in and dive in head first. What does he do? He stops. He doesn't even tell people what he's in Jerusalem to do. He turns up and he stops. And for a couple of days, Nehemiah settles in without telling anyone why he's there. And he goes to look at the walls and the gates for himself. Now, at this point, the only thing Nehemiah has to go on what the state of Jerusalem is like, is the reports that people have given to him whilst he was in exile, and what he's seen on the way in. And of course, his broken heart. Nehemiah doesn't have all the facts. Nehemiah doesn't know just how badly the walls are broken or how badly the gate is broken. He just has a report there. So he doesn't have the information of what work needs to be done. He doesn't have the knowledge of who does he need to talk to in Jerusalem. So Nehemiah doesn't just dive in. He wisely waits and gathers the information and facts to know what he has to do. Why did Nehemiah do this? Well, he doesn't tell us. So he doesn't tell us. So all I can do is try and say, why do I think Nehemiah doesn't dive in straight away? What I think is Nehemiah shows some fantastic wisdom here. Nehemiah wants to know the reality of what he is facing. Now, finding out the reality isn't going to unsettle Nehemiah. When you've got a broken heart and you're resolved to God, reality and getting the facts isn't going to put you off from doing the work if God's really laid this on your heart. He isn't finding out, he's going to find out, go, this is dreadful, I'm not going to do this. But actually, Nehemiah needs the facts. He needs to know which parts of the wall are broken. How badly is it broken? How much resource will he need? He needs to know what work needs to be done where. Not just what work needs to be done and what resources he might need, but what support might he need? How many people might he need to do it? Nehemiah goes on a planning and fact-finding mission on his own for a couple of days. Now, sometimes when we do this in modern times in our life, where God's put something on our heart, but instead of diving in, sometimes when we stop and we plan and we find out the reality, we can be accused with saying, well, you're not just trusting God enough. If you trust God, you wouldn't be planning and working this out. You just dive in there and do it. But I don't believe that's true at all. Nehemiah needed to know the work that needed to be done. He needed to know what the reality was that he was faced. So he needed to know what to do first and what to do next. God isn't only an instant God working in the moment. He can and does work in the moment. But that's not all he is. God can be in our preparation and planning. And God is in our preparation and planning if we open up our hearts to him in that. God wants to partner with us and work in our planning and preparation. As long as we submit our plans and our preparations and say, God, is this what you want? Lead me. Work with me on this. What Nehemiah is doing is he is letting God into the reality of the situation he is in. And this isn't a lack of faith. This is an opportunity to allow God to shape our plans, for God to plant his seeds and to lead us. And this helps us to make sure that our plans aren't just our plans, but they're God's plans as well. And that's what Nehemiah is doing here. That's what I believe he was doing. I also believe Nehemiah didn't really tell anyone what was happening straight away, because he wanted to be led by God and not by other people. Remember, the people of Jerusalem had been living there for a while now. And that means they've been living there and just allowing these gates to be broken, allowing the walls to be broken, and they were doing nothing about it. In modern parlance, I guess you could say these people were nose blind. What is it to be nose blind? Nose blind is when you live with a bad smell for so long you can no longer smell it. They'd been living with broken walls for so long they no longer saw that there was a problem that needed to be fixed. So why would Nehemiah go to them at this point and ask what needed to be done? Because they didn't see a problem. Nehemiah didn't need to be led by those people. Nehemiah needed to be led by God, who had broken his heart for those broken walls and gates in the first place. So Nehemiah doesn't tell anyone. He collects facts, he collects plans, and works with God in his heart. Also, I believe Nehemiah doesn't tell anyone, because he doesn't swan in with this arrogance of, I'm right and you were wrong. I can't believe you haven't done this. He doesn't do that. He comes in wisely and humbly. If we are to be people who moves in what God puts on our hearts, I believe this is the kind of wisdom we need to be following. There's something, I recall something that I heard about D.L. Moody. It's been attributed to D.L. Moody. I don't know if it isn't. But D.L. Moody was sailing on a boat one day when a fire broke out. And one of his travelling companions asked him, do you think we should go and pray, Brother Moody? And D.L. Moody replied, you can go and pray, brother, but I'm going to man the water buckets. There is a time to pray and a time to put the fire out. There is a balance between praying and doing. And I believe Nehemiah gets this balance right. D.L. Moody is not saying prayer is wrong, and nor am I. But there has to be a balance between prayer and doing. If you're on that boat and there's a fire there, yes, we should pray, but also we can be putting the fire out. There is a balance between prayer and doing. And I believe Nehemiah strikes that balance excellently. Nehemiah prayed. Nehemiah sought out God. Nehemiah saw breakthrough and did something. He travelled. Nehemiah inspected the walls and was planning and praying whilst he did that. And then he didn't just keep praying. He then kept doing. He went and he spoke to the officials, because there's a balance between praying and doing, and it was time to act. What I love about Nehemiah's interaction with the officials of the town is that he doesn't just say, this is what God wants. He doesn't point at the broken walls, go, look at the mess of that, and you've let that happen. There's no accusation here. He doesn't just tell them, God says you've got to do this. He doesn't say, I want to do this. Nehemiah shares his heart and his story. Nehemiah shares his heart of hearing the report of his heart being broken, and then the fact that God's hand was on him and allowed him to come here with resource and safety in the first place. There was not an ounce of arrogance. There was no expectation of everyone had to listen to Nehemiah. He came in humbly and shared his heart. And those people, those officials that he needed to partner with him to do the work, their hearts were opened as well, because of the wise, humble way he spoke to them. Such wisdom. Our story and our heart is sometimes exactly what someone needs to hear. And do you know what? This would have taken time. Nehemiah could have rushed in and said, we need to do this now. Go and do it, or I'm going. See you later. I'm doing it on my own. But he didn't. He built up relationship with the officials. He shared his heart. And because of that wisdom, people joined him in the vision of God. People partnered with Nehemiah. The officials joined him in fixing those walls. There's a little challenge there. Who do we need to share our hearts with? Who do we need to invite on our journey with us and God? By doing this, Nehemiah took another step of faith. And with this extra step of faith, more people joined him on the mission of God. God continued to show his grace by granting a way for more people to help him. But as I said last week, with each step we take out with God, there may be another step of opposition as well. And we see this here in verse 19 and 20. But Nehemiah trusts in God despite the opposition. And he doesn't just keep that trust in his heart, he speaks out that trust in God. That act alone of saying, I'm going to trust God to do this, will have emboldened Nehemiah to keep stepping. Now, it's that last challenge I want to leave here. Do we need to be speaking out our trust in God publicly more often? Remember, stay safe, look after yourselves, look after each other, and yeah, I'll see you soon.